Alright YouTube, so we're back of course to talk about some Final Fantasy VII, and we're back to talk about Vincent yet again, surprisingly quickly actually, and a kind of interesting connection that him, or sort of him I suppose, has to possibly Jenova. So what we're talking about today is a post I seen over on Reddit a couple of days ago from Crimson7 Phantom, who just so happens to be a subscriber of the channel. So what we're here to discuss is the potential connection between Chaos specifically, Vincent's strongest form obviously, and Jenova. The first thing we're going to look at is a visual comparison, but it's not directly with Jenova, but that like statue machine thing they put in front of Jenova within the Mountain of Bell reactor. Kind of a side note, this thing has always fascinated me because I don't even know if there's like a lore reason for it, other than maybe just to kind of cover up the actual Jenova behind it, because she's quite jarring to look at. So if you compare Vincent's Dirge of Cerberus version of Chaos to the machine in front of Jenova, they're similar in their look and the appearance in the face with the lines through the face, especially if you use the original game's comparison because of the very jagged lines here, similar to what they are within Dirge of Cerberus. It's a very straight line for some reason. I believe this is from Crisis Core if I'm not mistaken. It's important to know the timeline of everything. This is the original game, 1997. Dirge of Cerberus came out in 06. Crisis Core came out in 07. And why that matters at all is when it came to Dirge of Cerberus, they very, very much changed the look of Chaos. Within the original Final Fantasy VII, he was your very generic, basic-ass demon/devil looking character. Nothing really unique about him. But now with Dirge of Cerberus, Chaos looks a lot more like Vincent, but, Vincent mixed with a demon, essentially. I'm assuming it's sort of like a retcon redesign of the character. You could maybe make the argument that it's like Chaos and Vincent kind of finally blending, whereas in the original game it just was a demon form that he took on. But the thing is, Vincent has had Chaos and the proto-material within him for a very long time, years, like before Sephiroth's birth and shit, right? And Sephiroth is in like his mid to late 20s or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So that's like 20-something years that he's had Chaos be a part of him. And Dirge of Cerberus only takes place like 3 years or so after the events of FF7. So I don't know why within that small amount of time he would finally blend with the form of Chaos instead of that 20-something years that he's had it. So I would assume it's just a redesign. And why I mention all that is whenever they decided to redesign Chaos, they could have made him look exactly like he does within Dirge of Cerberus, without the lines on the face. It's a very distinct like marking to put on the character, especially when you look at it like side by side with that machine that's in front of Jenova. Especially when the lines are protruding from the sides of the mouth and then up the head. Now again, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but it is quite similar. Now this could all be chalked up to a design decision. Maybe they thought it just looked cool for the character, but they could have designed Chaos in a million, endless, countless different ways, and they went with that design decision. I've always said that I think the smallest details matter. Another small visual comparison between the Jenova machine and the form of Chaos is the 6 pieces to the wings of both characters. Now, I'll be completely honest, I don't know how much this comparison holds any weight. Their wings look nothing alike. It's vertical lines or so versus like horizontal lines, essentially. But actually, look at them kind of side by side, so to speak, or I guess up and down, whatever you want to say. They're very like kind of yin and yang, like opposites of each other. The Jenova machine is very angelic in appearance, whereas Chaos is obviously very evil looking. Now onto some other comparisons with the actual Jenova behind the machine. For starters, some of these are kind of my own comparisons, just my own observations that I want to kind of add to this. For starters, their skin color is quite similar. It's probably not the exact same pigment, obviously, but they both have like a grayish, light blue skin color. The glowing eyes, which Crimson Phantom did point out on his Reddit post, they glow different colors. Jenova's kind of a purplish, his are kind of golden, but still, the glowing eyes are very distinct. Off the top of my head, and I can't remember every single character off the top of my head, obviously, but I don't recall a whole lot of characters within the Final Fantasy VII universe that have glowing eyes at all. Something else I thought was a bit interesting, and it kind of leans into that yin and yang, almost visually being opposites of each other, is we've always seen Jenova's right eye covered by her hair, and Chaos's left eye is almost covered up by, I guess, what is essentially his hair, or whatever is on top of his head. Horns, whatever it is. Chaos Phantom also points out these somewhat similar designs with them having like headgear on, and Jenova's hair being kind of crazy, just like Chaos's. But I don't know how much those hold weight either. For starters, the headgear that she's wearing is obviously a Shinra creation. It has nothing to do with the actual look of Jenova. It's something that Shinra has made for her. But that is how we've always seen her. We've always seen her with that headgear on. So there could be something to it. And the kind of chaotic hair that she has in that moment in the scene, she's submerged in liquid. It's the only reason her hair is kind of floating around like it is. If we take a look after Sephiroth has cut his own mother's head off, you can see that her hair just kind of falls down like normal. She has regular hair, so to speak. But again, similar to the headgear thing, it's how we've always seen her. Her hair's always been kind of wild. Or dare I say, chaotic? Yeah, I'll see myself out. Something else I think is important to point out is that Jenova and Chaos have somewhat similar goals in trying to wipe out the planet, right? Chaos's literal goal is to destroy the planet. Omega Weapon will then suck up the life stream and technically save the planet and drift off into space to find another planet to imbue the life stream upon. Now, Chaos and Omega Weapon were created by the planet itself, but we know that Vincent has Chaos and the proto-materia within him, and we know based on Advent Children that Jenova can actually infect the literal life stream, right? And she's been on the planet for over 2,000 years at this point. So who's to say she hasn't been affecting the live stream this entire time? And Grimoire, Valentine, and Lucretia found the protomateria within the Crystal Cave in a tainted pool of live stream. And why I mention all this is that whether intentional or not, Jenova could have had some sort of effect on Chaos or the protomateria itself, because obviously she's on the planet long before they ever found protomateria and put it into Vincent. Maybe that's why they have relatively similar designs at times. Somebody also pointed out on this Reddit post that Jenova could theoretically be a sort of a Chaos from a different planet, right? Because Chaos's goal is to destroy the planet. I think there's a little bit of credibility to that, simply because we know that there are other planets within the actual physical universe for FF7 that are similar to Gaia. And obviously I'm referencing Final Fantasy X and Spire. Their planets are pretty much identical. And I think that's an interesting idea, simply because we don't know the origins of Jenova anyway, right? She came into Gaia on a meteorite. We don't know where she came from. I think it's an interesting idea. What if she's like the opposite of an Omega Weapon from a different planet, right? Omega Weapon is meant to suck up the life stream and travel the galaxy to find another planet. And Jenova kind of did that. But maybe the planet, maybe it's swapped. Maybe the Omega Weapon from a different planet, which is Jenova, is actually the evil, as opposed to being the good. Again, I think it's a pretty interesting discussion. I don't know how much credibility it has, but they went with a very distinct redesign of Chaos where he looks a lot like Jenova, or at least parts of Jenova. So definitely want to know your guys' thoughts on this. It's a very out there kind of idea in theory, but it's fun to discuss. And at the end of the day, I think the most credible thing here is that Jenova could have had some sort of effect on the live stream or the protomateria itself. And definitely let me know if you guys can come up with any other comparisons between Vincent's Chaos form and Jenova, whether it's the machine itself or the actual Jenova. Other than that, dudes, that is the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys aren't new. We'll save more Final Fantasy VII content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @dashingdavid. At my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description. And in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.